My name is Jan Myberg, and I am the principal and co-owner of Harcourt's Platinum. Harcourt's a company with 140 offices countrywide. We're a franchise business. We're one of the top biggest four in the country. We're also an international company. We were founded in 1888 in New Zealand, Australia. We're quite a large company with more than 10,000 operatives across operatives. It sounds like the intelligence service, doesn't it? No. Agents in New Zealand, Australia, Fiji, Indonesia, China, America, and so forth. And Harcourt's is also one of the companies that are really leading the way in the modern day auction. We're not going to talk about that exclusively tonight. I'm just explaining all the banners out there just to make sure you didn't rock up at the auction tonight. Okay, so we currently have about 16 mandates. It's going on auction throughout the process, but if there's a few questions about it afterwards, we can chat. So all I'm just saying that from a Harcourt's viewpoint, locally we have a team of about 20 sales agents that covers primarily Strand, Borders Bay, and Somerset West. Our business has been around for over 30 years already, and sadly I'm the newcomer, but I'm a quick learner. After 33 years in Durban, I became a seller very recently. And again, had the rude awakening of dealing with estate agents, okay? Did you know that the bulk, 65% plus of estate agents that joins the industry will leave within the first 12 months of joining? So it's an industry with a huge, huge turnover because a lot of people romanticize the industry, and when they land up there, it's nothing that they actually expected. Because real estate is not about just working with buyers, it's finding the stock, the real estate to sell, which has to be priced correctly. You need a whole mix of things, and for that you've got to be a little bit of a caring but tough cookie at the same time. So I think it's very specific personalities, high caring personalities, but also people that can be brutally honest with you to make decisions and give you the kind of feedback. So if there's an agent that you sometimes wish they were less honest, you probably have a good agent at that point. But yes, as I said, a very high turnover business. But we're very fortunate to have people in our business being there for many years. I think you're putting in about 15 years, Alistair. 16 years. Lots of our agents, the minimum agent in our business, living here been for 5 years or so. So a very stable business, and as I said, I believe we have great market share in Somerset West. But to cut a long story short, this invitation went out primarily to our database on Facebook. The agents called their clients and said, you want to attend tonight, we're going to talk about what the Helderberg Market is doing. So my question to you is, who do we have in the room tonight? So who currently has their property in the market busy selling? Hands up, don't be shy. Okay. We'll pray for you later, but all right, cool, thanks. Lovely having you. Okay, I can see what it's like. Okay. Who here is planning to sell their property in the near future? Okay, after a few of that, I'm taking photographs. Okay, like this is the future business. Okay, Tarina, you're taking notes. Albert, that's you, and Torsten over there, lovely. So who are buyers here tonight? You come and learn a bit more. Okay, he's a buyer, he's a seller, he's a potential seller. They're like a potential buyer, I'm going to buy it. You're not going to buy it. Does anybody here want to put a bid in for a bid? Or buy? Okay, lovely. Yes, I've got a few buyers. Who here is just so bored, we're looking for a date and a night out, so you actually pitched. Okay, Torsten again, that man is a clinical psychologist and he's very confused tonight. Okay, so was there anybody else? So we'll try and address a few of these topics. What I have on the agenda, and you know, with this agenda thing, I don't want to stick too strictly on topics, but we'll start at one point and we will end at a logic point. So what I have on the agenda is roughly, how do we establish an asking price for a property? And for us, a buyer, that's also important to know, how did the seller establish an asking price for a property? Because buyers are pretty educated, they know market value when they blink their eyes. We would like to talk about the dynamics of a real estate market. What drives, what are the measures and the drivers behind the real estate market, so we can identify those. Talk for a few minutes about the Helderberg Market specifically, and there's a reason why I'm singling out that market. Buyer behavior and getting the best reaction from the market. The buyer comes to your property, why is it that we sometimes get an offer so quickly, and we many times hear sellers say this, oh, I priced it too low, you guys lied to me, I'm not going to take that offer. There's a dynamic behind that buyer behavior that I think that if you're uneducated about it, you can many times wait for 18 months before you might get another offer again. So I want to talk about that for a few minutes. You and your agent partnership. So you're going to choose somebody to work with. What criteria should you use? What could you expect from them? And what's your role in this whole thing about trying to get your property sold? Because it is a partnership. It's not the agent's sole responsibility to get your property sold. You actually have a bigger role to play in that whole relationship than just the agent and making it their sort of problem. And then maybe alternatives for highly motivated sellers, which is the auction model. And if you guys want to know about it, I'll gladly explain it a bit. We do have a website, platinum.harcourts.co.za. There are lots of information tabs on it in terms of sales, preparing your home. There's auction, there's an auction tab on it that explains everything, and I've given you a little bit of a handout tonight. So let's kick it off by saying, how does a seller typically decide on a price for their property? And remember, I've been in real estate for 20 years. We've got people who've been here for 16 years. So we see it all, we do it all, and we always hear about the same general principles. And there they are on the board. We need to get X rand out because I need to retire. I need money to live on. I need capital, so I'm going to get it from this property. That's one main reason. Another one is we are moving to a more expensive area of home. Hence, I've got to get as much as possible out of this one in order to afford that. I'm sure you guys have heard some friends saying that before, haven't you? But nobody in this room, right? I thought so. Yes, yes. We've spent so much rand on improvements. Just in the past 2 years, we've spent 200,000 rand, and now an agent is coming and says that you're not going to make money back. And we have sellers in the market who improve their properties. And at this particular point in the market, sits in a situation where they might not make those improvements back. But that has nothing to do with what somebody will eventually pay for a property. So let's talk that through for a few minutes. And my neighbor sold for X rand just a year ago. So would you guys say, the estate agents in the room, those are the kind of things that we normally hear from our sellers. So this is how sellers would price their property. They really, many times, most of the time, just decide on a figure based upon those motivations. So, and I think that in order to look at that, so what we have is we have a seller's expectation. What can I possibly get? Or this is what I need. But at the same time, there's a wake up and coffee kind of, smell the coffee kind of moment in this whole thing where we're working with a different concept, which is seller's expectation versus market value. And those are two different things. I want to show you some common examples about how the two things got nothing to do with one another, basically. Okay, and I think that's it's a big wake-up call for a lot of us. So let's quickly talk about market value for a moment. So I've actually made some notes for myself because for me it's virtually impossible to stick to a time frame. If I said 45 minutes, I can easily take 3 hours. Ask Alistair, he knows. So hence I'll consult my notes a little bit. Whenever we look at any definition of market value, you can take any kind of dictionary, it'll always come generally down to the same thing. As a matter of fact, the definition I'm going to give you is from the training manual of the Estate Agents Affairs Board in South Africa, which is an international standard at the same time, but it says the price, market value, is the price that a willing and able buyer is willing to pay a willing and able seller in an open and competitive market given a certain set of economic, political, and social factors. That is market value. And that's got nothing to do with the way that the seller decides on what prices you might see. If I can define market value in its clearest, most simple form, it's the blue line at the bottom that says that true market value is what a buyer believes something is worth at a given point in time. So I'm going to give you the shocking statement to tell you that actually nothing that we have or that we own has any intrinsic value. I know it is shocking. Something only has the value that somebody who's willing to have it, that attaches to it at that given point in time. We don't have to fight about that tonight. You guys just go think about that for a minute. This morning on the radio while I was driving, I was listening to, an auctioneer was talking about paintings found in strange places and how they sold it for millions and millions of rands. But the people who owned it attached no value to it. Some of the paintings were found up in a solder, wrapped in an old blanket. They were found under beds. They had to be cleaned. Whoever owned them at the time attached no value to them. It wasn't in a prominent place. They didn't appreciate the painter. They didn't like the painting. It really meant nothing to them. And hence they were willing to actually sell it, get rid of it. A PDF, 20 million rand. That's what it fetched the last auction. But for somebody else out there who attached specific value to that, they were willing to pay 20 million rand for something that somebody else put under their bed and gathered us. Is that a fair comment to make? So I just want to leave the point with you in saying that the people who truly establish this market value is the buyer. The buyer is in charge of the purchasing process. So I'm going to leave that point with you there. There are the values as well. You have a municipal valuation. A municipal valuation's sole purpose is to think about market value and in order to tax you on it, rates and taxes. And believe you me, as estate agents, yearly we fight for our homeowners by giving them valuations so they can write to the municipality and say, hi, you are overvaluing my property so I can pay a lot more tax. You just recently went through that exercise. Okay, we need to help them all. Okay, seriously. All that the municipality is interested in is how much can we tax you based upon a valuation we attach your property. You have insurance value. What will it cost if that place burns down or falls down to demolish it completely, cart away everything and rebuild a place in the same image or likeness on that very spot? But that's got nothing to do with market value either. So in other words, when we talk about they valued my property, the municipality valued my property, insurance brokers valued my property, that's not necessarily a market value. That is just for specific purposes, but that doesn't mean that the insurance broker is going to come and buy your property. So value is in the eye of the beholder. And I repeat that one more time. Value is in the eye of the beholder, just like beauty. So property is a confidence purchase. Now, I want to give you one more example. I love my own example that I thought out here. Who recognizes that? Any of the buildings there? London, 1942. Hitler and the Luftwaffe was bombing the hell out of central London. What do you think a property was worth in central London in 1942? You couldn't give it away. Is that a fair comment to make? Yeah. In those circumstances, property was worth nothing in central London. What is it worth today? You can't buy it even if you try. Hence, market value is a function of a specific set of circumstances in a specific point in time. Is that a fair comment to make? You could have bought something 4 years ago for X amount, and today, due to a specific set of circumstances, you might get less for it than what you paid for it. Which is not the big picture of real estate. If you wait another 10 years, you will definitely get more and you will probably have a roof over your head. So real estate is a confidence purchase, and when people buy real estate, they have to intrinsically believe that they will be better off in the future for having this property. Is that a fair comment to make? Yeah. Real estate is a confidence purchase. And here's the trouble. The moment that people don't have confidence in what the future holds, they all, I'm not going to do this now. I'm not going to make a commitment. I'd rather put my money under the mattress in a tin under my bed. I need to have confidence in the future. And I don't have to tell anybody here, if you switch the news on at night, you know how low South Africa per se, and the world, many times, is on confidence at the moment. Do we all agree with that in broad? I don't want to dwell on the negatives. We're going to take a few realistic shots at that. But I think that it's important to also see the bigger picture. But now London is highly desirable, stable economy, confident future there. Well, we're not too sure with Boris, and I see a few of you raising your eyebrows here. So the Brexit scenario, and all of these talks, Boris and Brexit and just doing it, I can assure you that even the London market's property prices are going up and down due to that instability over there. But even if you go try to buy a property today in London, there are two major forces that's going to be working with or against you. Number one is competition, what other buyers are doing. Or if you own a property there, competition would have been up against you. And the second one is supply and demand. How much is available? Is it going to be extremely expensive if there's a little available, or will it become cheaper where there's a lot available? The law of supply and demand. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. Now listen, without underestimating your intelligence, I know there are learned people in this room, but I just want to take you one step back and say what we need to look when we look at our properties. When we look to buy a property or sell a property, we need to take a step back and see the real estate market for what it is. The real estate market, like the commodities market, I want to liken it today unto just a fresh produce market. Who has ever been to a small farmer's fresh produce market where there are different farmers taking their products, their articles, aubergines, what else is interesting? I made a list of them. I don't really eat veg. So aubergines, courgettes, tomatoes, green beans, and every farmer brings his own produce and they have a little stall. Who's ever been at a place like that? Come now, people. Not the fresh veg market over here, that's a monopoly. All right, okay, cool. So if you've ever been in that kind of market, there you are, with all those farmers standing, displaying their wares as much as they can and hoping to entice the shoppers in the market on that specific morning. So what does the shoppers do? They walk around, pick up their arrows, give a light squeeze without anybody seeing you, because you know that's wrong, obviously. I mean, you get locked up with stuff like that now. Maybe look at the tomatoes, smell it up. Maybe it's some of the fruit that you smell it, take a big sniff. And so what we're doing is buyers compare. They compare two things. They compare, firstly, value from money from their own perception. Is this worth? Is a pineapple worth 12 Rand in general? How do they establish that? On the second principle, what does other people sell pineapples for, or what can I get a pineapple for? So haven't you guys been to Woolworths? You pick up the 2 avos and it's 55 Rand, and you said,
Hell no.
Hell no! What rules? You can keep your avos. I won't pay that, because you know that you can probably, when it's a little bit more avos, you can probably get them at 24 Rand for the same pineapple. Or you can just go over to Checkers. Yeah, the quality might not be exactly the same, but you can get 12 Rand for 2 avos. So you have a perception in your head what money dictates in terms of your expectations. There's a limit to what you're willing to pay for something. A bottle of whiskey, a motor vehicle, a meal out argument, say there's a limit. Do you guys agree with that? But you establish that limit from what else is out there in the market, basically. So that's what buyers are doing when they're walking through that fresh market. So there you are, put yourself in the shoes of a farmer. You've got your courgettes, you've got your tomatoes there, but it was a great season. Everybody did well. There was enough rain. It was a brilliant season. The wind and the pestilence didn't wreck your crop. But that year, you needed to pay more for water at the municipality. You needed extra labor. As a matter of fact, just before you took the crop off, your truck broke, so you had to rent in transport. Those people had to take it away, and then you had to take a loan at the bank to fix your truck and to get produce to the market. That's for you. But your neighbor maybe didn't have all those costs. That's a fair comment to make, right? So there you are, and you want to embed the costs that you've had in this produce in your price and say, unless I can get X, I'll not be breaking even here. I'll be making a loss. I'll go out of business. I'll have to sell my farm. Is that how do you think that people think? Yes. This is exactly what we think over here. When we look at our homes and we say, I've embedded, I had cost, I paid this, I made some changes, etc. Now I'm going to sell it, but now I'm sorry for flipping through these slides like this. Now I'm going to make sure that I get those cost backs. Now replace yourself from that farmer's shoes into the buyer's shoes. As you're walking around, you're going to buy your food for the weekend. You're going to buy a dozen tomatoes, X number of avos, a half a kilo of green beans. What are you conscious of? Quality and price. So I'm not asking you questions because I know nobody will answer. I know, okay? You know, a lot of strangers in the room, you know, so they don't like talking, so I'll just do all the talking because I like doing that anyway. So there you are, the buyer. You're comparing quality, but there's a limit to how much you'll pay. And if the next door farmer is selling tomatoes at 2 Rand cheaper per kilo, you look at the quality, it's pretty much the same thing. And what do? You're price conscious. It's a commodity. You buy the tomatoes from the next door farmer, which is price conscious. And what does the farmer do who has overpriced and embedded his cost? He takes his tomato back from where he came and maybe go and feed it to the pigs. And that's what's happening to a lot of sellers in this market, where they eventually move, the houses are standing empty, they're losing so much money on it, but they lost the initiative on the period when it was really, really important to price correctly. So their properties are becoming rotten and stale while buyers are shopping. And this is not just real estate agent talk, I promise you, okay? I think, as I said, I'm trying to give you an analogy that you can identify straight away, because that's how the human mind works. We don't separate these shopping behaviors and so forth between categories of real estate or veg or motor vehicles. To us in our mind, it's pretty much the same thing. Torsten, help me out. He say yes. Yes, true. Yeah, he's a clinical psychologist. He knows how the limbic system and the prefrontal cortex works together on emotion and making all of these attachments and so forth. Okay, let me move on swiftly. Free market capitalism. Oh yeah, what I wanted to say. There you have the free market system and capitalism in its purest form. Just like that. But so is real estate. Free market and capitalistic by nature. So fortunately, the communists haven't really come into play and nationalized everything as yet. The pension funds are under threat, don't make a mistake. I mean, they might have to bail out ESCOM and the SAA. And tell me, how do you guys feel when you hear things like that on the news?
Ecstatic.
Yeah, ecstatic. It's like, what do you think about your money? I was thinking of buying a property, but now that they say that, maybe I should just stay liquid. In the past 2 months, we've lost 2 deals where the buyer was sitting pen to paper for a R2.5 million apartment. Tarina was the agent, if you don't mind me saying so. We're ready to sign for an apartment in part of Lake. And the financial advisor said to her, "Are you crazy? Don't buy a property now. You won't be able to release the money from it when the going gets really tough. Give me money, I'll put it through an offshore account." Did she do that? Yeah. Didn't commit to signing on the dotted line. So those are the kind of stories that are affecting our market quite tremendously, and we will talk a little bit more about that. So now, friends, I think we have an analogy about what are the principles on how a market truly operates. So let's take it over to the real estate market. So let me just say, maybe, I don't know why it's skipping my, oh, there it is at the top there. I wanted to say to you the following, that when a property is, or rather when any item in a market, be a commodity, a property, fruit and veg, oil, gold, whatever it may be, is in abundance, what happens, you guys know? When there's a lot of it, a lot of supply, little demand, the price has to come down in order for people to sell it and to stay in business, whatever they have. The moment that that is in great scarcity, price goes up because there's a lot of demand for little available. That is, it's like gravity. Doesn't matter if you believe in it or not. It's busy at work. Ask me at the age of 55, everything is just going south all the time. I try my damn best to just keep it up there, but gravity is doing its work, right? So the law of supply and demand works on exactly the same principles. They're busy dictating in the background, irrespective if you believe it or not. So I believe that in a market where there's very few properties in the market, people can ask a little bit more because there's a lot of buyers who now suddenly want. And that is what happened with armchair investors. When everybody's buying, they buy. When it's going really bad and everybody's selling, they want to sell as well. But then there's a glut in the market, there's an oversupply, and you can't make the money out of it. Really clever or true investors wait until the market hits rock bottom. People are selling below what they owe the bank, and then they buy. And then their margin for profit becomes so much bigger. But don't be too angry at yourself. At one stage, I owned 8 properties, Albert. I sold all 8 of them because I couldn't handle the tenants anymore. It was just too much for me. Seriously, I was driving around like a slumlord on a Saturday morning, collecting rent and stuff like that. But I've learned, all you have to do is just employ Harcourt's rental department with Donita, Portuguese, Afrikaans, English-speaking girl. She ain't taking no prisoners, and she has an insurance on people not paying your rental, you know. So there's lots of solutions nowadays. Okay, anyway, what I wanted to say to you, so let's move this conversation over to, there you have a market. Same thing as the fruit veg market. It's just not a place like you went to with the stalls. This one is in real estate offices, windows, Property 24. It's based upon websites, it's in the newspaper. That's a market, just like the veg market with its stalls, displaying product for product next to one another for people to compare. The descriptions are massively accurate: accommodation, position, location, appointment of the property, size of land, size of the property. A buyer nowadays does not call an agent when he wants to buy a property. He does research for weeks on end. He makes shortlists, he makes comparisons. He takes the price and divides it into the square meters. He knows I'm paying for a new development 18,000 rand a square. That one is selling for 19, 18.5. So when I buy a development of plan, land and building all included, I shouldn't be really paying more for 19,000 rand a square, all in all, unless it's got something really, really superior. Fair comment. Sexual titles, very predictable. Take the square meter of the sexual title, divide it into the price, and now you're paying 13 or 14 or 15,000 rand a square. How about estate living? So in other words, buyers do all of those things. Is that a fair comment to make? Before they call an agent, when they call, they say, listen, we've made a short list of properties that we would like to see. Can you help us? One of them is your mandate, or one is it. Only then do we become of buyers. And while we are all sleeping, sellers and estate agents, buyers are trawling that marketplace, up and down in the middle of the night. Thorsten, you're shaking your head. You've been doing this lately, haven't you? Shopping, making comparisons. Is that a fair comment to make, friends? Okay, lovely. So that would be typical your buyer behavior, and that's just what they're doing. So I wrote down a few stats here for you. Currently, the average asking price in Somerset West is just over 4 million rand on average. However, the average selling price is just over 3 million rand. Meaning that there's a big amount of property, highly priced, overpriced, whatever you want to call it, that doesn't sell, that's skewing this figure between what people want and what's actually selling or what they're getting eventually. There's quite a gap in that. So today, as of last night, when I talked all the statistics, just in Somerset West alone, there are 2,166 property currently in the market for sale. You can go get the stats yourself. Your property 24, top right-hand corner, that's advice. If you click open, there's a drop-down box, sold prices of property in Somerset West, Strand, Gordons Bay, where you're going to look. There's a lot of self-education that can happen there. So, where's in the Strand? I've got some Strand sets of views for Strand as well. 3.16. Strand, the current average is 3.2 million rand. Can you believe it? Because we are selling properties on the beachfront for 7-8 million rand in those high-rise flats, the penthouses and so forth. So Strand is 3.2, it's a million rand less on average than asking price in Somerset West. And there's 1,290 properties for sale in the Strand. Gordons Bay, the average asking price is just over 3 million, and there are 1,412. Yes, I sounded like President Zuma there for a second. There's 1,412 properties for sale. Now, Gordons Bay last year only transferred 549 properties, but it's 1,400 for sale. So that means that the absorption ratio in Gordons Bay is only 30%. Of everything available, only 30% of it will actually sell. The rest are waiting another year, 18 months, 2 years, whatever it may be. And I know that, yeah, you can draw down into suburbs and price bands, and some will sell quicker and there's a greater demand for others. But just to give you an idea of when you go to the market, don't assume that it's just going to be a walk in the park for me to sell my property. Unless you're astutely pricing and doing research and maybe getting some advice in and listening to that advice, you may very easily land up waiting 2 years or to sell your property at the moment. And we'll, as I said, I'm going to get to that as well. So just a bit of statistics. What does this market look like at the moment when you're twiddling up and down the roads there to check it out? So what I did is, I just took one suburb out of Somerset West to show you how predictable this market is. I just chose Rome Glen. Can you see the prices there? 3-bedroom house, 2 bathrooms, double garage. 2,995, 2,750, 2,980, 2,950, and 2,999. That property over there, 3.4, is a 4-bedroom house. So if the seller in Rome Glen with a 3-bedroom house puts his property in the market for 3.4 million, do you think that anybody's going to respond and call and say, oh, I like this, let me call the agent? I mean, what are your chances that a buyer who can see that the average selling price for those tomatoes in this market sits at so much rand per kilo, but that farmer, due to his specific motivations, is going to ask a lot more to make back his cost because he moves to a more expensive area or whatever his motivation was at that point. You don't even get a phone call on a property like that because, or a minimum price like that, because the buyer knows I can get an extra bedroom for that 400,000 rand. Hence, the property might stay in the market for a long time. And I want to say to you that with a single screenshot from Property 24, I can take a suburb, you can take a suburb, and you will know within 3 searches what market value is for a likewise property. Is that a fair comment to make? So there's no way that a seller can go into the market, especially in the kind of circumstances, and just arbitrarily decide, this is what I'm going to ask for it, I'm going to hope for the best because I'm selling for all the reasons I've explained before. As I said, I don't want to really labor the point. I didn't do any other suburbs because of a lack of time. So, there we are sleeping. The buyer is walking through the shelves here. He's looking at the wares, picking it up, inspecting it, smelling it, touching, feeling it, maybe even making an appointment with the agent to go and really smell and feel and see it, you know, kind of scenario. And while this is busy happening, there's a specific set of behaviors that the buyer is busy going through. It's like you go on dating, you know, you change behavior. You guys, who's got a teenager in the house at this stage? But you're not allowed them to date, do you? No. Okay, that's a weak joke. I'm just kidding, okay? So, let me show you what happens to a property. When a property goes into market, in real estate there's a saying, the best time for a property to be in the market is day one. Because what a buyer does, and you guys can help me out if you've done this before, they register themselves on the property portals and on the company's websites that they like. So when a new listing comes in, the website will automatically alert or mail or SMS that buyer and say, whoa, listen baby, it's a new property that we've just listed, you haven't seen it yet, do you want to check it out? And it goes with the link. Who's done that before? Hands up. Now that's typical buyer behavior. As a matter of fact, as estate agents, we do the same. We register ourselves as buyer to search for our buyers and also to see what the other agents are doing. You know, are they listing in our suburb, because the property portals will alert us when there's a new property. Now what I have here is what we call a heat report. These two heat reports are from two different properties. They're from our Harcourt's Platinum website, and these two properties are from Property 24. Both of them are a heat report. It shows what's the response, the electronic response on the website on the day that the property gets listed. And you will note here, that's October the 23rd, October 24th, 1st, 6th, 7th. So literally there you're working over a 4 or 5 day period. And then you've worked over October 7, 14, 20. That's a 3 or 4 week period. But what I would like you to note is that first day or 2 days, that first week over there, is the response time when you actually have the bulk of buyers who are currently in the market for a property in that price bracket, with that accommodation in that location, will see it first. The website mails them, they click on the link, they have a look through the photographs, they look at the sizes, they make the comparisons, and they leave. The agent doesn't get a lead. So if you have a look here, this property had 308 views. People click on the link, scroll through the photographs, but it only had 4 leads. In other words, 4 people out of 308 send a text or a mail and say, I'm interested to know more about this property. So this, catching this part of the market, that's the same thing over there, it's just from a different website, but that is your first day 10, 15, that was day got live. Over there is 5 days, 10 days on. There's the bulk of the inquiry that happened on that property. So ladies and gents, the law of supply and demand and gravity. Even if we don't believe it, this is what's working in the background when you decided to put your property in the market and you put it out there for people to touch, taste, feel, and see. And if that lead is not generated, they all move on, and 2 weeks later they buy something else. They won't even go through the trouble in actually making an appointment to see it if you ask for a 3-bedroom, 3.4 million rand in road length. Because they're expecting a 4-bedroom for 3.4 million. It's as simple as that. You guys all have gone through the exercise before. By the way, I've typed out this whole little speech. Sadly, I can't put voice to it because I'm a lot more charismatic than paper. Okay, I'm just kidding. But you can have it, all right? So I'm quite happy, but it's in a PDF. There's little slides next to it. I can mail it to you if you really want to read it again. Plus, I've got some material there for you that we'll talk about in a moment. So I've taken that, and let me quickly show you how this works. So can you see it's the same thing there? That's the first X number of days, the first week, up to 3 weeks many times, depending on what your agent does, what kind of marketing they do. Do they do print? Do they do electronic promotions, show houses, video, Matterport, 360-degree tours? The more material available, the greater your chances are to find a lot of different buyers in different segments of society. So the bigger your marketing plan, the greater your catchment area. It's like fishing and you're putting 15 lines in the water instead of just one if you only list on the portal. Okay, that's a conversation for a different day. But so, let's take a property. And again, I'm going to click on Tarina, sitting in the back there. It was her property. When I came here in February, she had that property listed. Originally, it started at 3.1 million rand. It's in Pintail Road. And I want to show you this property I'm showing you here is just one property of many properties. I can quote many addresses to you, but let's take a case study on this one. At the bottom it says, the longer a property stays in the market, the more its value diminishes over time. Eventually selling for less than what it could have achieved within the initial crucial listing period, where highly qualified buyers are shopping in the first 3 weeks. Remember, I just showed you what the responses were in the first few days in the market. So 39 Pintail, listed originally at 3.1, but after a few weeks they decided that they're crazy and they came down to 2.99. They were in the market for 18 months. Okay? So what we have is this Pintail's market value. The black line is buyer interest, that is replicating the previous slide where I showed you that, and this is the time in weeks as it goes on. So they listed at 2.95. And within X number of 21 odd days, they had a buyer who said, I'm willing to pay you 2,650. And Tarina took an offer in writing for 2,650,000 Rand on 37 Pinningtail at the time. But the seller said, you know what, I think I'm going to get my price. And that buyer left, eventually bought something else, and I'm not telling you the story to scare you. Then a few weeks later, a month or 2 or 3, the seller brought the price down to 2,895. He stayed in the market for another few months. He decided to bring the, well, he didn't decide. Tarina went there and said, Mr. Seller, please, please. My nerves are shot. I can't sleep at night. I'm always late for my children, fetching them at school. I've prayed that my knees are bleeding. Please bring the price down. You are urgent to sell. There's no use you screaming at me on the phone. I can only do this much to get buyers there, but when they see it, they think they can get better money elsewhere. So he brought the price down again, 2,750. These are real figures I'm giving you. Then he brought the price down to 2,595. Ladies and gents, he eventually sold it for 2,530,000, whatever. Yeah. Sorry, I'm from the Northern Cape. I don't deal in those sort of figures. You know, I still grew up in a time when you pay a cent for a Wilson toffee. Okay, Mark, and you as well. Do you have to go? Oh, yeah, sure. I'm sure he's going to bring that in. Okay. So that's what he sold for. Hence the summary that the longer a property stays in the market, the less it will get. So imagine, a property's just like tomatoes, going stale or going soft and so forth. When you lose that first group of buyers, these buyers that you work here, and if you have a look at those graphs, you'll see that the buyer leads are dropping down from 60 a week inquiry down to 5 or 4 or 3 until they're just flat lines eventually. After 4 months or so forth, that becomes a flat line completely. Nobody's interested anymore. Every buyer in the market has seen that property and they discount it. And guess what's the first thing that a buyer asks an agent when you show them a property? One of the first things. How long has it been in the market? It's part of our genetic coding. We want to know, can I get a deal here? Can I negotiate? You know, what's wrong with it? Why did nobody want it? You know, that kind of scenario. And obviously it places poor agents in quite a difficult position. It's always hard to say, the seller's just overpricing it, it's not selling, you know. So we've got to earn our commission as well. We're not going to earn it if we make remarks like that. So this is just an example of how many properties operate this principle. The higher you price above market value, the longer you wait, and you will, as true as we sit here tonight, will sell it below the value that you could have gotten in the first 3 weeks to the first 2 months of it. Is that a fair comment to make? You guys see the principle behind it? I think I've proven it enough with statistics there from the website. So for the buyers in the room, great question to ask. And in a market like this, always make an offer. We're now in our Monday morning meetings, we say to the agents, even if the seller says to you, I'm not prepared to look at X number of offers, say to the seller, to the buyer, what are you willing to pay to own this property? And take an offer. As a matter of fact, on our comparative market analysis, we at the moment don't even look at historical data. In other words, what did the neighbor sell a year for? It doesn't matter in this market. The only thing that matters is, what are you competing against? That's all that matters in this market. And we'll talk about the market in 1 minute. Why is it in this state, and specifically in the Helderberg, that's what you guys came to hear. So I'm moving on swiftly. So there are a few things that shows us what kind of market it is. Like you put a patient on the bed. What the doctor will do first is check the heart rate, do the blood pressure, do some glucose testing on there, you know, blood sugar and the whole lot. So in other words, the symptoms indicate the condition of the patient. So in real estate you have the same. There are a few things there, number of days in the market. 2 years ago, a property stayed in the market for roughly about 90 days and it was sold. Currently properties are staying for up to 160 days very easily in the market before it sells. Yes, we still have properties selling within 14 days. Where the seller is highly motivated, he prices correctly, we pump the marketing program, and boom, you have 2 or 3 buyers who want it, they compete, and we get 2 offers. And yes, it still happens, but on average, 160 days. Absorption ratio, meaning that how much of the available property in the market that's for sale actually do get sold within a particular period of time. So I remember I said to you, Gordon's Bay, 1,400 for sale, and only 500 were sold. So there you have a look at 2 years ago, 40% of properties got sold, and currently 25% of the properties currently in the market is sold. So Somerset West, currently got 2,177 properties. Our ratio at the moment for transfers is 122 registrations per month for Somerset West. So if you divide the ratio of sales, 122 a month, into the available stock, 2,177, you're going to take 17 months to sell all the properties that's currently for sale. More than a year and a half, provided that not a single other property also enters the market. So there's enough stock to carry this market for 17 months. What the seller has to decide is, when do I want to sell? Now or in 17 months from here? That's really what the absorption ratio means. Is how much is the market taking off from what's available. List to sales price ratio is the drop that the seller might have to contemplate taking from his asking price. So if I say to you, 89% is the current ratio, that means that on average the sellers are selling for 89% of asking price in this market, while 2 years ago they only sold for 94% of asking price. So you can see this gap, 4 plus 5% that they're now getting less in the market due to a particular set of circumstances than they would have gotten. So those are the indicators that we measure a market on, and we're pretty good as estate agents to keep on tracking these figures on a regular basis from our sales and from property that's in the market there at the moment. I can skip that one, it's way too intricate. Or rather, I can't see that far. It's not too difficult for you guys to understand, actually. So here I've got a screenshot for you. For the past 10 years, what Somerset West market, by the way, from Gordon's Bay and Strand, I can give you the same information, but I just select one because we don't have enough time to deal into all of it. But this is the median price. And there you can see the light blue is freehold properties. There you can see the median price is going up over time. That's why property over a long term, over a 10-year period, is a great investment. You will not. You have a roof over your head, plus you've got long-term capital growth. But in the past 3 years, 2.6, 2.6, 2.550, 2017, 2018, 2019, price growth or capital appreciation in freehold and estate freehold properties has virtually been standing still for the past 3 years. Can you see that? I'm not making this up, I promise. Okay. Then, the greens are the sectional title schemes. Those are the Sataris, the Felder, the Jade. Alistair mentioned a few more to me. I don't know them all as yet. Sectional title schemes, Jade, the Felder, Satari.
Oxford News.
The
new ones.
Yeah.
Satari.
So your friends will also know that that's picked up quite nicely from 828, 900, 1.1, 1.4, oops, down to 1.3, 1.3. So even your flats or sectional titles are suffering, and then in the dark blues are land. There a piece of land, 495 million price, currently land is selling at 1.4 million rand. So land prices are still slightly rising, depending on how much is available, and developers are buying land, so that helps the land price. Over here you've got the number of registrations, and as you see, from 2009, how the property market boomed up to a top of 1,197 registrations in Somerset West market, and then from 2014, we have seen a gradual downturn in the market. I mean, it's cyclic. The market is what the market is. There's an oversupply, there's people buying for a variety of reasons. And so for 2019, we're sitting at 496 freeholds, and you can see that sectional titles has moved up quite a lot because of those big new developments that come into the market and dumped hundreds of units. So people bought 2 years ago and now it's registering. So now they're going to put a tenant in or they're going to go live there. So that's why the sectional titles have got such a steep rise, because of all the development that's taken place over that time. But yes, those properties are all in the market. But the point I want to make is that your number of sales in freeholds, for instance, how it's come down. I think I'm projecting that we're currently sitting at 496 freeholds, and we're probably going to register another 200 before the end of the year. So I've got a statistic work out there for you. And I'm not trying to scare anybody, but freehold estate property has been dropping 100 units per year since 2014. In other words, 75 per month drop on average in 2016, 66 per month in 2017. I'm talking about what is registering. They registered 75 per month in 2016, 66 per month in 2017, 60 per month in 2018, and 50 per month at the moment in 2019. So it's just over the past 3 years, a gradual slowdown and a bit of a contraction. Your property is holding good value, but there's not a lot of volume selling because there's a bit of a supply of property in the market. That makes sense. Everybody good on the same page? Any questions, any remarks on this? Yes?
Why would developers buy now? Do they know that the market might turn in terms of the land?
Developers started many of their projects 5 years ago, getting the approval, buying the land, going to JVs. There's a whole lot of moves. We have got 6 sole mandates on developments here. And the trouble with all of that is they started a long time ago, but the market is catching up. And even those guys are bleeding a little bit. They're bringing prices down. They have embedded costs. Some of them, they're holding costs 100,000 rand a month on a development. They're paying rates and taxes, levies. They're going to have a show house and stadium to be kept up. Even the developers are bringing their prices down in order to sell, but they could not have foreseen what the market was going to do over a 2 or 3 year period. So everybody's full of faith, and you see developments coming up. And yes, it is still selling, but just at a very slow rate at the moment. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. One more question. Is the rental market keeping up with the number of sectional titles selling, or is it behind?
If you have a great tenant at the moment, and you're going to raise his rent with 8 or 10%, and he says, look, I can do better. Believe him. Currently, rentals are under pressure. They are coming down. There's a lot of stock available for them. So if you have a good tenant, consider not giving them a rental increase at all. Rather keep a good paying tenant that's looking after your place without increasing rental, because they can find other places at cheaper rates at the moment. So the whole market, rentals as well as sales, will be depressed.
New tenants as well.
Say again.
New tenants.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there are many properties standing empty, and unless a landlord comes to the party, and they sometimes say to us, I want to have 22. We value at, say, we think we might be getting 19, and then they get it offered for 17. And listen, if you don't want it to stand empty for another month, take the 17. You know, like this is what the market is willing to pay at this stage. Because there are competitors out there whose units are standing empty, and they say, I'm willing to take 17. Just the same thing. It's tomatoes, courgettes, avocados, one after the other. Anyway, you guys get the idea. So I think this gives you a little bit of an idea of the true reflection of how the market is slowing down a bit, but there's still transactions taking place. So we're currently sitting and registering about 50 per month in Somerset West specifically. So yes,
sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. And it's a bit of a difficult question, I think, because we're all I'm looking at this crystal ball.
Yeah.
So, I just want to. What do you think? Where do you think it's going?
This is the reason why we're having this evening, to say to you that, you know, in 20 years' time, a lot of us has gone through a number of property downturns. Look at 2008. It decimated the market completely. But you know what? Within a year, everything was up. And look at 2014 after 2009, coming out of the doldrums over here up to that point. Look at those prices, how they went up to 2015 again. So that was a fairly, I would say, it was a hectic downturn, but it was fairly predictable. The moment that government makes the right noises, there's overseas, there you have international investors. The world economy is in a fairly stable state. Our own economy, maybe a lot of hope and faith for a new president coming in. It all boosts the property market. The World Cup, the whole lot. Lots of things. But it is... Yeah, now you've got a problem, Alistair. But suddenly
for the economy, the box.
Suddenly in this market, we're finding ourselves as real estate people in a little bit of a conundrum, because we don't see much happening from a political and economic sphere in South Africa that boosts the confidence. And remember, I said to you, property is a confidence purchase. So the moment that any minister makes a remark over national TV about nationalizing pension funds or the South African Reserve Bank or whatever, or a new national health service plan, Standard Bank closing 90 branches, and next year there's 1,200 branches up for closing. Any of that kind of news is perpetuating the current, let's call it, unstable situation where people don't have confidence. So if you say to me, what do we foresee in the future? We need one strong political leader to make one political statement that makes any sense about the future of the country, and this will turn around overnight. But for the way they're busy going at the moment, no deep shit. Sorry, excuse my French, you know. Okay, well, that's maybe a bit of a bad picture I painted there, but sadly, that's
answered my question.
Okay, well, you have it. So we're all waiting with bated breath. Apart from the fantastic things that we have South Africans share and everything we do, and how great a country this is, there are certain forces at play that's really beyond our control. We do the best we can, but I wish I had a crystal ball, I must tell you. Yes, Albert.
Yes, something I don't know if it's the right time to ask this.
Always, go ahead.
If I have a tenant in the house that I got through the agent,
Right.
and the tenant himself tells you, listen, whenever you want to sell the house, I'm interested.
Right.
Just not now, maybe early next year.
lease agreement, it is written that when they place the tenant and the tenant wants to buy, that they're entitled to commission, then they will be entitled. However, if that's not written in, you are to do privately.
It's not written in that sense, it's written in that if I want to sell property, I can sell it, but that agent may be signed if they sell the property, that they have to pay them 5% commission or something like that.
I get you.
But
So they took like a
but it doesn't-
mandate from you as part of your lease
But it
agreement, but
doesn't,
not to that tenant.
yeah.
Yeah. You're welcome to send the agreement to me. I'll gladly have a look at it for you. Oh yeah, by the way, Tanya, would you mind standing up back there? We've got a local attorney in the house, Steve Dutchman here, Slovert, and that's Tanya. She's a qualified attorney. Some of the people that we work with on a regular basis, I apologize for not introducing you earlier. She's the person who brought all the wine tonight. So if you have any legal questions for her afterwards, please
I was just maybe
give her a little buzz.
come up at the right time.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks, Albert. So, ladies and gents, why Helderberg? Why are we talking about Helderberg? Because I look at Remax, know them well. Adrian Gosling, the CEO, just posted on Facebook, heading for a record month. Remax in South Africa, nearing 2.1 billion rand in gross sales. Harcourt, South Africa, head office are posting some of the best months they've ever had. In the 10 years of Harcourt in South Africa. Why? Why is the Helderberg showing those signs and the rest of the country seems to be okay? It's not the whole of the rest of the country. And I've got 3 or 4 things, and I said I'm a quick learner. So when I came here, this started bugging me for the past few minutes. Now I want to say 3 or 4 very quick things. Why Helderberg tonight specifically? Number one is we spoke about the economic, political, government debt, unemployment, credit rating downgrades. Just this morning, the radio again, employment's the highest it's ever been. Bankruptcies are up 25% from last year in the first quarter of the year. In the documents I've given out, I have given you a complete rundown of the economic and political elements affecting the real estate market. So I don't want to deal with all of that now. You watch TV and news and you know what I'm talking about in general. Is that a fair comment to make? So you can split through that. There's a sentence there. It says slowest price growth. This came from the F&B, the latest property barometer. It says that one region to watch carefully is that of Somerset West, Strand, and Walvis Bay, where year-on-year price growth has declined sharply from 5.3% in the last quarter of 2018 to just 1.7% in quarter 1. Somerset West, the place with the highest per capita millionaires in the country. So I read. Any millionaires here tonight? Okay. It's just us poor folk. Okay, so house prices have been growing around 10% in this region in 2017 and early 2018. This could clearly be seen in the Lightstone graph of Somerset West, the same graph I showed you. So why Helderberg, Strand, so forth? And here I believe. So that's the macro factors over there. That's affecting the whole of the economy. But add to that 1 or 2 very peculiar things about Somerset West or the Helderberg. Most people who buy above 3 million rand, which is the Somerset West market per se, are buying either with large cash deposits or completely cash. Those are the people who are giving their money to the offshore account at the stage and say, rather invest my money. So anybody that's cash flush, who doesn't have to take a full bond, rather holds onto money at this point. Is that a fair comment to make? Hey guys, I mean, you're in the coaching business, you've got clients, you know what I'm saying here. Plus, coupled with that is 70% of everybody buying in Somerset West are locals. Upgrading, downgrading, going smaller, going bigger, going less, more expensive to less expensive, going into secure estate, moving closer to a school, 70% plus. So you take that with those people, having cash, holding on and not making decisions, nothing hurting them. They can stay where they are. They have a house. They're living here already. They've been living there for 10 years. Why make a decision in such certain economic times where unemployment is rife? We're facing the credit rating. We hear about the economic downturn. We hear stupid statements that the political leaders are making. Let's just hold on. So suddenly your buyer pool of that 70% is like shrunk, like this woman. Everybody's just sitting tight, checking out what's happening. That's a fair comment to make. Then the third one. I'm not too sure. Let's have a look around us here. You're all vet. Somerset West does not have a black middle class. While the suburbs that are doing exceptionally well, Pinetown, Westville, Krugersdorp, Roodepoort, you name them, they've got an upwardly mobile black middle class who's not busy going to Australia or the States or to Canada or to Europe. They're staying, they're buying with a full 105% bond. The banks are begging to lend the money, and those are the people that are feeding and driving a buying frenzy in really well-priced properties in suburbs with a great mobility. So there's a benefit and a negative to that. So we are a very homogeneous society. We're all bit. Okay, right? Let's just face it. They're mostly German, Afrikaans, and English-speaking people here. It's like a herd of little impala. So we all graze together peacefully. We want a spirit, one of sound mind, and so forth. But if we hear any trouble, somebody picks up there and says, "What was that? The rustling in the leaves? Let's run!" Everybody's like, "Papa, here's big crowd. I'm not going to make this. Let's go, let's go, let's go." So in other words, a homogeneous society like ours are very influenced by the spirit, and this sounds like really esoteric, but I can find no other reasons, by the prevailing thought, conversation that is busy happening in a closed community like ours. That is why I believe primarily that Helderberg Market is singled out by the property barometer, saying that the one region in the whole of the Western Cape that is suffering more than others due to this downturn in property is the Helderberg. I said to you, 1.7% growth versus 10% just 3 years ago. Fair comment to make? You all agree with that in principle? You're tired of me already, aren't you? You're not going to stop talking now, okay? Or you just spellbound.
School.
Okay, spellbound. I like that a lot more. Thank you so much. Guys, I'm nearly done here. Let's quickly talk for a few minutes about my agent. I think the one thing about when you employ an agent is you've got to understand that you have the seller, talking about you. A seller has more to do with the sale of his property than the agent has. If you choose an agent with a decent marketing plan, you can lay it out for you and say, these are the steps I'm going to take over a 3-month period or a 4-month period. I'm going to do print for you, I'm going to do electronic, I'm going to do video tours, virtual reality, I am going to do, what else do we do? Remarketing, digital marketing, you know this thing that nowadays you get a feed on your Facebook, you click on it, it takes you to a website, and suddenly you can't escape that thing again. It's following you around, it's called a pixel. It's attaching itself to your IP address, and wherever you go to YouTube and into Google and Facebook, there an ad appears of these properties for sale in your suburb kind of thing. So we're pretty clever with those things. You know, we identify income groups, age group, population groups, demographics, and then we start following you around and start pushing our ads to you. So you're going to choose an agent who's got these solutions for a modern day world, okay? Not just fly your property with a few photographs taken by their cell phone on a website. No, they'll never do it. It's the agent's fault. Okay, that's just the lack of marketing. Is that a fair comment to make? But if you have a really good qualified agent who knows the market, negotiate your behalf, has got marketing tools, the rest is pretty much up to you. Let me quickly run you down and say to you that the seller has got to choose a price. It's not the agent that chooses a price. They make recommendations, they give you market information. You might be doing a lot of that homework, but they will bring this in for you to say, here are your competitors. If a buyer shops at night, they're going to see your property with 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, against these other 2.9s, 2.7s, this and that and following. Yeah, but listen, I'm going to a little bit more of an expensive area. I need to get at least 3.4 in my pocket. I mean, after that, the agent can do nothing anymore for you. It's just like, game over. Own it, keep it, as a matter of fact. It's better just to stay there. You don't even try, all right? As a matter of fact, my agents are not allowed to bring a property like that into our office because we can't sell it. It's as simple as that, you know. We're only spending money on it. This office spends 100,000 Rand per month, every month, on real estate marketing, web, digital, print, and stuff like that. Just to show you, there's a lot of cash flowing out on property advertising, and the guy who makes the price is the seller, not the agent. So we also got to choose carefully. Number 2, the presentation and condition of the property, that's the seller's responsibility. Making it, I've given you, sort of sadly fairly hurried, but in your handout, factors to consider when selling my home doc. And it says, and here you have a whole lot of things about preparing your home for a sale, interior things, some few pages. Take it with you. Those are all the things that you can do to up the presentation and the condition. You know, some practical tips. The third thing is accessibility and cooperation. You can't be, a seller can't be a secret seller. You can't refuse to have a board out, no show houses, I don't want the neighbors to know in the market. If you're going to decide to sell, you're going to go balls to the wall. It's like everybody has to know that you're selling. Your family, your ex, I don't care, you know, everybody. Because it's the agent's job to tell everybody, yes, a brilliant, fantastic property you want to sell. Come guys, come have a look. Your neighbors have to be invited. Because they've got friends, family, colleagues that desire to live in the suburb that they're living in. And many times a buyer comes from within that little circle, from that kind of thing. So the seller has to be accessible and cooperative. The seller says, look, I've got to come at 6 o'clock tonight. Say, no, that's the time I'm having dinner. You know, we always have, so dinner at 6 o'clock. We don't take visitors at 6 o'clock at night. No, it's like, you got to cooperate. Sure, I'll go out of my way, I'll stand outside, I won't show them where I buried my mother-in-law in the back lawn. That kind of stuff. Stay away, let the agent do their work if you're a seller. And then lastly, be flexible and negotiable. You've got to cooperate. It's not the agent's job to sell your property alone. What the agent does for you is advise on market conditions and competition, a marketing plan and a process, how we're going to approach this, what are the things we're going to do to attract attention, promote and advertise, feedback on the pricing, the condition, the presentation, that can help you making it better. So I mean, after all, it's a seller that wants to move, isn't it? Not the agent, the seller. You want to have a different life, you want to live somewhere else, you want to go smaller, you want to go bigger, you want to live closer to your parents. So it's the seller that needs to sell. So you have to take the feedback on board and then create competition between the buyers. So I'm always saying, if you're choosing a well-resourced agent, give them a mandate, because that's the way they gather buyers all to them and they can make them compete. If everybody has your listing in the suburb, those agents do not know which buyer is working with whom, and there's never any competition between the purchasers. And it will really, and I know from experience, that a single agent that gathers through his marketing superiority all the buyer inquiries has got a far better chance of making them compete than when you fragment all that power away. Nobody's willing to spend money on an open listing anyway. Okay, you guys get the principle. Last one. Take offers and negotiate between the party. That's the agent's job. So the two of you cooperating together in a team in order to get that property sold, and you are flexible, negotiable, and you are just trying to make life as easy as possible for your brilliant, well-dressed, and charismatic hardwoods agent. How about that? So we've formally come to the end of the little presentation. If you have any, I've kept you unnecessarily long, I apologize for that. But I didn't see anybody leave. Did you see them as well? They just stayed here. Yeah, exactly. It's like watching a circus show. It's like, does anybody else have a question for us just very quickly? No.
I was going to say, maybe if you wouldn't mind, Jan, if anybody wants to just touch base with you about the auction just after this. Maybe a few people can just sit in just for 5 minutes.
Is there anybody who's keen to know for 5 minutes more what auction is about?
Yeah, that's one.
Right. Okay, then. I'll 5 minutes, all I'll take. You guys okay? All right. If you need to leave, I'll understand. No problem at all. If you need another glass of wine, Luzelle, bring them more wine. Okay. So, ladies and gents, I usually have it here. Okay. The modern day auction is a non-distressed auction. It's not like the old days against the lamp hole, everything must go, bargain, rock bottom prices, salary distress, bankrupt auctions. Not at all. The modern auction is a three-phase auction where the focus is not just on auction day, the auction itself. It's three phases, meaning the pre, the auction day, and then a post-auction phase. And just very briefly, what happens there is the property goes into the market without a price. So now, remember what I said to you when you pick up those tomatoes. There's a limit to what you're willing to pay for a kilogram of this or a particular property. If you take the limit away, your expectation changes because you can't measure the property against the price anymore. So now what you see is not the price, what do I have to deduct for they're asking way out too much, the rooms are too small, all of that vanishes. So when the marketing starts, the buyer walks through, all they see is lovely rooms, beautiful views, and he doesn't know why he's comparing it against from a price viewpoint. So you're catching a lot more buyers out there, because a buyer will search between 2 and 2.5 million, that's my budget, and if your property is priced outside the bracket, they will just never see it. It won't come up on their radar. With an auction, it appears from anything that people can buy from 2 million to 3.5 million. So in other words, people searching in that bracket will see, yes, a beautiful property, and it's on auction. So initially we have a few requests to say, are you an auction looking for a bargain kind of scenario? We have a handful of people calling like that, but I want to assure you that the majority of them actually purchasing are people who are buying in the price bracket. Plus, I want to show you one or two very quick slides here. Here we go. This property has been on the market for 14 West Street, 21 days on the auction van. It had 26 inquiries, 17 people came to look at it, and it sold before the auction day itself. As a matter of fact, more than 60% of all the property sells before the auction day because it has a deadline. So where buyers generally can shop and shop and shop and they never have to make a decision, suddenly the 6th of November is looming closer. And so when people say, well, there's a lot of interest here, I was at the open hour, we've taken one in 37 Vergelegen on Sunday. The agent in 45 minutes had 12 couples through the property in 45 minutes. And these people are milling around, they're looking and says, shit, this is going to go quickly, can we make an offer before the auction? With pleasure. Let me send 3 of you the offer to So in other words, the whole thing is about creating a vibe without setting the limit of the price and hopefully sell it before the auction because of fear of loss. But in a normal price listing in the auction, there's no deadline. We can just wait and we wait. And you know what those buyers do? They sit at night while you sleep and they check if you had a price reduced on your website. Is that a fair comment to make? They watch it, they like your property, but they know they don't really have any real competition. They never see anybody there. They call the agent and then they see maybe you bring the price down. Because South Africans are actually fairly shy. They don't really just like negotiating. That's why I say to the agents, ask them for an offer. Don't wait until they say, I'll make an offer. So what was this for in the market? Can you remember, Alistair? It's 3 million, 3.5, I can't recall.
Started at 3,195 and then it dropped to just under 3 and eventually at 275 and had no interest. Put it on auction and it sold for 2,650.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you for that one. This one sold on auction day. That was Ehrenberg Golf Estate. That I was at the auction, sold for 7.2 million rand. So there were 3 bidders, 7.2 million rand, which was market value. So auction is a very transparent process. The buyers can, while the property is in the market for 4 or 5 weeks, we punt 30,000 rand worth of marketing in it. Everybody in the market knows about the auction. So people come and inspect the property and says, okay, I want to bid, or I want to put in an offer. So you can sell before the auction, or they can register for bidder's day. When you register to bid, you get pre-approved on a bond if you want a bond, or you've got to deliver proof of cash that you can buy it. So on bidder's day, we don't take people off the street. We take registered bidders that comes into a room or on site. There's an auctioneer, which is myself. We put the auction and you put a reserve price on it. So in other words, we market the property for 4 or 5 weeks. During the 4 or 5 weeks, we keep on giving you feedback. This is what people say. If we ask people, do you see yourself living here? Yes. Were you prepared to buy it? Yeah, I would actually love to. Would you try to make an offer now? No, I would like to bid. Where do you think you'll be willing to bid to? And what? Oh, I think I'll go up to this amount, or maybe my budget is that. And the seller gets that feedback all the time for a 4-week period. So when we set the reserve price 3 days before the auction, you take all that information saying this is probably market value. So in other words, if the seller is unsure of what can I get from my property, what's the real value here, put it in the market at no price and put a deadline to it. We gather all the people through our intensive marketing program and they give the feedback as to what do you think this property might sell for on auction day. If they bring you an offer beforehand, guess what? That's the market value, is what a buyer is willing to pay for it. If we don't have any registered bidders on auction day, you've got to have at least 2 to compete. If you only have 1, you can't have an auction, right? So then we can either postpone it for 14 days or 21 days and see if we can gather a few more people. Otherwise, it goes into the post-auction phase, which we still have a mandate for. And now we put it at the price that the market has educated us about, and it goes into the market with the price. In all of this process, the seller is 100% in control of the pricing. We're in control of the marketing. We many times do ask the seller to put a few rand cash in the first 4 weeks. We'll take care of the balance because the auction marketing, as I said to you, our marketing plans run from a minimum of 20 grand to about 35,000 rand, depending on how upmarket your property is. We split it 50-50 between you and ourselves, keeping in mind that involves quarter-page print ads in different number of papers. It has video tours, it has Matterport, it's got digital marketing campaigns, it's got feature listings on the portal. So wherever the public opens a medium, there the auction property is right on top, right in their faces. If you're shopping for a property, you will see an auction property, and that takes a lot of money to do that. But this is by the by, we negotiate about things like that. But that's a 3-phase process. The seller's in charge. We do set a reserve price. We're going to have registered bidders. Nobody comes off the street, and never do we create the impression that the property is a bargain or that anybody's in trouble. As a matter of fact, that property there, that seller was not in trouble at all. It sold for 7.2 mil. Okay. There's another one that sold after the auction. Ehrenberg Golf Estate again. I can't recall what you guys said. 60 days on the market, 31 and 13 inspections. Does anyone in the room knows what that one went for? Serena?
5.5.
5.5. That was Ehrenberg Guardian Crescent number 68.
After, or it didn't go to auctions, after sale went to market at 5,650 and sold for 5.5.
So yes, go ahead.
So when you go on this auction and that, like for example, Saturday, I was one of the 12 people there.
Right. Okay. Yes. Oh, wonderful. Okay. Good news.
And so I just want to ask you is that so. For example, if I put my house on auction now, and you guys are there, and you get these people coming from my to Garcias and all of that. So now I'm walking in, I say, much are they asking?
Yeah.
Now you say there's no price set.
Exactly.
So what do you?
I'll tell you what we say. We say to people, look, the seller has decided to go to the market at an auction in order to have a deadline. They have an expectation. However, we believe that bids will be coming in between 2.8 and 3.5 mil. So we give them a broad spectrum to know at least I can't be here looking for a bargain at 1.5 mil. I've got to set my sights and keep it in mind as well. And if you have a group of buyers here whose budget is 2.8, and the next group of buyers' budget is 3.2, and the last group of buyers' budget is, let's say, 3.8. If somebody knows I can get a superior product, but I've got to lift my budget with 300,000 or 400,000, people find that money. They borrow, they steal, they beg, they take an extra loan, they borrow against their inheritance. So what you're able to do is, if you have a 2.8 million buyer, you can pull them up to the 3.2 mark if they see something they like. It's an old favorite saying in real estate, buyers are liars. You know what the point is that buyers do not know what they want until they see it. And I've seen buyers who buy for double the amount of money than they said they can afford, purely because they saw something that they fell in love with and had an emotional attachment with straight away. So our standard answer to that is, yes, the property's in the market at that price. We're expecting bids to come between this amount and that amount. Are you about in that ballpark? No, that's too rich now, I can't afford to do it. Cool, let's show you something else. But if I am, the next question is, do you see yourself living here? Yeah, I love this house. Well, would you like to make an offer beforehand? Because it's very busy at auction, you might lose it, and I've got a lot of interest. I've sent out quite a number of bidder registration forms, so you either make an offer now, or can I send you a bidder registration form for you to participate? If we get people, then F&B comes and do a valuation on it, and the buyers get all pre-approved on a bond, or they give a proof of cash. When they bid and the bid falls on them, the property is sold. Boom. You don't have to wait anymore, no bond approvals, everything is done on that day. So auction's been a fairly successful process. Here's the big criteria. The number one rule when you put a property in auction. The seller must be impressionable on getting feedback from the market. If you say to me, look, unless I can get X in my pocket, I'm not selling. We won't take an auction mandate from you. Auction won't work for you, right? If you say, I'm not too sure what my market price is or should be, I want best money from, and listen, our goal is as well to get you the highest amount of money for your property because, hey, ching, we had a hell of a lot more calm based on that. We're obviously in a little calm. But, so our ideal would be is to make sure that we sell the property at the highest price. If you say, I want most money, we'll say to you, the method to get you most money what the market is willing to pay is a no price strategy with a deadline to it. Market will give you feedback. And yes, we do not sell all properties on auction. There might be people coming through so in other words, a castle on a hill out there is not a good auction mandate for us. You're going to have great normal residential properties that a lot of people are looking for. They become great, and if the seller is impressionable on price, we can work with taking a really good auction process through. But it is the 3 phases, and everything is not just about the auction day. As I said, 60% plus sell action before the auction. Any other questions on that?
No, just to come back, if I want to choose the auction, which I've got to put money down,
I would love you to do that.
for paying for the marketing.
Yes. So what we do is, on an auction mandate, we take a 4-month mandate generally, and I'm just like, this is like very transparent and open business. The first 5 weeks, well, the normal marketing budget over a 4-month period is probably about 15,000 Rand for a normal residential property. So you do all these things that I mentioned to you before. But for auction, you've got to go big. You've got to put all the light you have in the water, and that's an extremely expensive. Plus, the seller can at any time say, look, I don't want to sell anymore. Listen, I've changed my mind. I'm going to go live with my parents now, or whatever. I'm going to stay on. My parents are going to come and live with me, whatever it may be. And by that time, the agent, over a 5-week period, spent 30,000 Rand. Cash paid out to the newspaper, digital marketing companies, Google AdWords, premium listings on Property 24, stuff like that, and the seller just walks away. So we always believe that the seller could put some skin in the game, as long as they make a contribution, we feel happy that everybody's bound in and everybody's serious about selling. But that is to be negotiated on a one-on-one basis, but we invoice the seller for the amount. He gets a statement about all the advertising. Remember, it's a 50-50, we pay half of that as well. And then if the property sells before auction, whatever money is not spent, we refund to our sellers, okay? So that's the one part that's very transparent. And then as I said, if it doesn't sell before the auction, then we carry all the marketing expenses for the 3 months that's still left of the mandate. We continue with newspaper, we continue with digital marketing, premium listings, so we spend another 18, 25,000 rand on marketing a property after auction. That's why we generally get some skin in the game. We know what if a seller believes in the product and he believes he's serious, we found that most sellers are actually quite agreeable to that. Australia and New Zealand makes use of seller paid advertising. They sell a 3% commission and the seller pays for all the marketing. Seller gets an invoice, he says your marketing's going to cost so many $1,000s. We advertise it, we roll it out if we sell before you get the money back if you haven't used it all. So there it's a very accepted norm. Here in South Africa the agents ask a bit more calm, but they carry all the risk. So you guys can imagine, if your take-up rate is 25 to 30%, and the agents are spending that kind of money advertising, but only 25% of them will actually sell. Can you imagine how long a business like this may last? It's just not good business principles. Albert, have I answered the question eloquently enough?
Yeah, well, they're forcing me just to put it on the market, put it out for auction.
Oh, nonsense, man. Come and talk is my business card. Let's talk, okay.
Would you say, Jan, with the auctions and that you're currently your premium listings?
Yes, on property 24, private property, etc.
So that's, do you do that constantly?
Yes.
So if I'm looking for something, it will always pop up.
Always be there. Now it depends on what price band you search. In other words, if you're a buyer between, let's say, 2 and 3 million rand, and I have an auction mandate where the seller said to me, look, let's aim at this kind of thing. I will pop it into the website in that bracket. So people searching anywhere between 2 and 3 million will see this in auction, but they don't know if it's 2.2, 2.5, 2.7 or 3 million rand. They've just got no idea. And what we do is, one in the background, we move the pricing around. In other words, we originally listed it maybe 2.8 and it appears in that band, and then 2 weeks later we drop it out to 2.5, we get a different group of buyers, because the buyer never sees the price. So what we do is we manipulate the background in order to get the biggest group of buyers we possibly can. That's why in those properties you've got those kind of inquiries. Friends, in these markets here, 22 Astor, and 23 inquiries over a 7-month period. We put it in the auction, we had 28 inquiries within a 4-week period and 17 inspections. In this market, that's unheard of. There are not that many buyers around. Unless they see, maybe I can afford that. Let me go have a look at the property. If I like it, I may find the money. So in this market, you can look at the price and say, that's just ridiculous. I can get better, let's shop a little bit more, let's stay where we are, for all the reasons I've mentioned today. Now in this brochure, it explains pretty niftily what are all the auction terms and conditions and how it works. It's a highly regulated process. As I said, economic bidders, the sellers declare up front what are the auction terms and conditions, what stays, what goes, what's occupation date. The buyer signs for it, is accepting all the terms and conditions before they rock up on the auction day. But as I said, chances are that we're actually getting enough interest and competition to get rid of it before the auction day itself. In New Zealand and Australia, there's so many videos on YouTube, but there are sometimes 80 people rocking up at an auction there. So except people stand on the pavement, they bid, seems like they want cash mostly there. But here we're still in beginning phases, so we might have 3 or 4 bidders coming to an auction. That's why we qualify them beforehand and so forth. So I've taken up a lot of your time, I don't want to do any more, but guys, business cards outside, you've got our contact detail, you've got your agent that you can deal with. Call at any time or stay behind for a few more minutes if you want to chat. I really appreciate your extreme patience. We must remember this for tomorrow night. We've got to bring the wine inside. Okay? Right. Thank you so much for coming. We were really honored by your presence here. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.